Okay, we're now recording. So welcome everyone. This is a Kustomize bug scrub. We'll be going through some of the untriaged issues in Kustomize. So I put a link to the triage board in the chat. But before we get started on that, does anyone have any issues in particular that they want to bring to our attention first?
I'm Ed Overton. I'm 4940 today, so I figured I would hop on in case there was discussion where I could be involved.
4940. Okay. That's this one, optimize memory and execution time.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, let's take a look. Oh, I think I remember you had some PRs for this. Fell off.
Yeah, I had one a few months ago and it just went stale, and there was some suggestions about adjusting approach. And so I figured I would throw up a second PR with a different approach and just see which one of these may make sense. And, you know, maybe neither of these are the right answer, but I do have interest in trying to pursue the improvements because we, excuse me, we've got fairly complex customizations that are large. And so we end up with runtimes that are probably 5 times as long as they were in 3.7.0 is sort of the baseline we've been using as comparison. So whether or not either of these PRs is the answer, I don't know, but I'd be happy to work with someone to do whatever might be needed to get the improvements moved forward.
Okay, I think that definitely makes sense. So I will read through the issue right now. But I think another thing that makes sense is that we're planning to release Kustomize v5 in a couple of weeks. So it would be nice to have some of those performance improvements in the release itself. So I'm going to mark this as part of that milestone, and we can sort of try to target that as when we get these changes in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so let's read through this. Optimize handling for get annotations totally makes sense. Work through visit fields. Okay, so let's revisit this PR. It just fell off my radar. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. It was, the timing was right in the midst of convention, and so if it were really important, I would have pressed earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, the 4810 is what I had done a few months ago. There's a second PR that I just put in, which is 4944, which is the different approach. The primary difference with 4944 is that it provides a single mechanism to traverse mapping node fields. Because I know that the initial PR essentially made the get annotations and get labels a parallel flow to everything else. And rightfully so, one of the comments was concern about the fact that essentially it was doing the same thing, but in a different path.
Okay. Thank you for the high-level explanation. I don't think I can do code review on the spot, but
no, certainly not.
I did mark the issue for the V5 milestone, and I can take a look today. Does that sound okay for like moving forward?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Let me add that to my to-do list real quick. We do want the performance optimizations. I just haven't gotten around to it. So I'll take a look at those PRs today, and hopefully we'll get one of them in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Does anyone else have any issues in particular they want to discuss before we move to the triage board?
Hey, yeah, I have a quick question, and apologies if this is not the right time to bring it up. That's my first bug scrub meeting. So there's an issue that we opened for Kustomize 4928. It seems like it got accepted in triage, and it has a couple of comments there. But I wasn't sure if there's like what should be a next step for this. Yeah, that's one.
Let me take a look. So in general, I'm saying this before actually looking at this. When we accept an issue, the maintainers themselves don't always have time to fix it. But usually if we accepted an issue, that means we're happy to accept a PR for that issue if anyone decides to take it up. Kustomize to So it looks like UN accepted this. I'll just double check. So you expected the overlay correctly, overriding the key. So the output error indicates a YAML anchor issue. I see. So we're expecting this overlay here to patch the previous one, and it's not doing that. JSON unsupported type. So from what Yuan said, it sounds like she wants to take a closer look or ask Katrina about it. Both of them, unfortunately, are out today. If you'd like, you're welcome to investigate like why this is happening. That would be the first step, I think. If you don't have the time to do that, when you and Katrina come back, I can ask them if they have time. But yeah, investigating the code would be the next step.
Cool. And I don't mind giving that a shot. I'm not too familiar with customized code base, but I mean, I'm willing to give it a try. The only question would be from like, I guess, a workflow perspective. I see that none of them actually assigned the issue to themselves. So if I go ahead and investigate or at least take a stab at it, should I assign it to myself or just try and kind of under the radar?
Yeah, assigning it to yourself would be helpful. If at any point you choose to drop it, please unassign yourself. But if you do want to assign yourself, you can just leave like a comment /assign and the bot should assign it to you.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll give that a try. All right. Thank you. And sorry for taking the time on that.
No, this is why we're here. Thank you for bringing up the issue.
Thanks.
Bye. All right. Are there any other issues that anyone wants to discuss before we move to the triage board? Going once, going twice. Okay. So I was thinking today we could prioritize the issues that are labeled kind/bug to see if we can fix them if they are actually bugs before they're released. So I'm just going to go through these 4 in order right here. So the first one, 4941, the example does not work. And I'll go ahead and paste that into the chat. So they're trying this example here. Let's look at it. The spec run latest container image cannot be replaced. How can we produce? Just follow the example. I'm wondering if there's a typo here because I don't see a difference between the expected and actual output.
A little bit earlier, they've got a what I think they really expected.
Oh, I see.
Based,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just try to run the example and see what happens. If anyone else wants to run it too, that might be helpful. The example seems to be working for me. Is anyone else having issues? What version are they using? They're using 4.4.1. I think that's a pretty old one. We're on 4.5.7 now. Unless someone else can reproduce the issue, I'm just going to write that I can't on the latest Kustomize and that I suggest they try upgrading. Okay, I will take silence as a yes. Can't reproduce this issue. Latest Kustomize. Following the linked example, I end up with where the container image appears to be correct. Could you try upgrading to Kustomize 4.5.7 and see if you still have this issue? Claim support. Triage. What are our options? Triage not reproducible. Does this look good to everyone? Again, I will take silence as a yes.
I'm also downloading 441 just to give that a whirl to see if I can dupe it at that version as a compose.
All right. Yeah, that would be super helpful. Thank you. And if you can with 441, could you please just leave a comment
Definitely.
on the issue? Thank you. Okay, so while Ed's doing that, I'll move on to the next one. Missing config maps are not reported if they are used to back a volume mount. So I'll paste that issue in the chat. Kustomize was presented with the case deployment featuring a volume mount with a config map. The config map didn't exist. I'm not sure that I understand. Was presented with a Kubernetes deployment featuring a volume mounted with a config map. The config map didn't exist. Did you customize to error? Is there someone on the call that understands why they're expecting an error?
Is that an understanding issue where they would expect Kustomize to go to the cluster and verify that the config map actually exists, or yeah.
That's possible. That also came to mind. So maybe that's what they mean. Let me ask. Are you expecting that Kustomize will reach out to the cluster and do some sort of verification? If so, that is out of scope for Kustomize, as Kustomize is a client-side tool only. With
It's either that or they just didn't provide enough data for us to understand what's going on, because I don't know if, yeah, so they didn't put like the expected output, they didn't put anything there. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need more information. With the manifests you've provided, I see no reason why Kustomize should error out. It'll just read the config map from resources.yaml and spit it out. Would you mind elaborating a bit more on what exactly you are expecting Kustomize to do here? I don't think this is a bug. Needs information. I won't remove the kind bug tag just yet, because we need more information. Does anyone else have any thoughts before I post this comment? Sounds like no. All right. Cool. So we'll move to the next one. Images, resolve previous name. Paste this in the chat. What happened? Kustomize was unable to use previous name when setting image tag. Simply ignores line. I would have expected the previous name to be able to be used and only the tag to be updated. Okay. So we've got image and the name and new name. Oh, see, they have base overlay structure. I see. I would have expected the previous name to be able to be used. So this customization changes name to new name, and this customization adds the tag, and they want the output to have both, but it's only doing new name. That seems like a legitimate bug to me. I don't see any reason why it should drop the tag.
Natasha, I think this is a duplicate. We want to link to the previous issue.
Could you send a link for that one?
Yeah, let me look for it and send it to you.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if they are aware, like I have a suggested workaround in the meantime. I didn't try to reproduce the bug, but technically if they want in their customization, if they add new name under new tag, I think it should, oh, actually they do have it there. Right, so app and customization. Is it just me or does the structure seem off?
Yeah, it took me a little bit to figure it out, but what I think is happening is that this first one is the base, and it changes the image name to new name, and the second one is the overlay, and they're expecting it to add the dev tag, but because the name has been changed to new name, this name doesn't match, and so it doesn't do anything.
I'm not so convinced that's a bug, though. I mean, if what I have is, if I convert A to B and B to A, and then later I want to add a tag to A, what's the expected behavior, right? I mean, I guess my point is simply the sequencing here matters, right? I don't think there should be this knowledge of all previous names, because you may then be applying something that is inappropriate. This behavior doesn't surprise me.
That's totally fair. I agree it's not surprising. I do think it's inconsistent because with patches and replacements, for example, Kustomize stores like all the resources previous names and can target based on that. This is slightly different because it's not a resources name, it's an image name. But I can see how you might expect Kustomize to have similar knowledge there of the previous names.
I think the difference, though, right, is if I'm handling resources, right, those, well, perhaps not. Sorry. I guess fundamentally, my question would be, if I have one, essentially my first step switches the names of two images, right? And then I have a subsequent, you know, like here, I've got a subsequent transformation that's going to apply a tag to one of those two names. Which one or both should it apply to?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It would either have to apply it to both or throw an error saying that it's ambiguous or something like that.
Natasha, I sent the old issue.
Let's see.
By the way, to me as well, this feels like just misuse of Kustomize rather than a bug. But I don't want to like force my opinion here. It's just, it feels to me like they could just work differently to make that work.
Okay. I think I'm convinced. I was very much on the fence because we do it with resource names, but I agree that this behavior is expected.
And I guess I can say from a user perspective that when I do something like that, then in my base, like usually if let's say I have a deployment, I will just put a placeholder name in the deployment. And then in the images, what I would do is I replace the placeholder name with a new name and a new tag. That's at least my understanding of how Kustomize should work. And it feels like they are taking a different approach here. So I'm not sure if this approach should be acceptable or not.
Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Thank you very much for explaining. And in the issue that Anna linked, it sounded like we agreed that this is intended behavior for Kustomize. So I'll go ahead and let them know. Thank you for filing this issue. We discussed, I can't spell, this in the Kustomize bug scrub and agree that this behavior is intended. If you change the image in the base, then naturally the overlay will need to target the new image name. There is further explanation and discussion. Another issue where we already discussed this workflow. Because we already discussed it in the other issue, I'm inclined not to elaborate further and close this. Does anyone have different opinion about that. Okay. We'll do triage, not an issue. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate the discussion. All right. So we've got one more. Oh, Ed, were you able to reproduce that other issue with the old version of Kustomize?
I haven't. I'm writing up now that my suspicion is they may have just copied wrong from the example.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go to the next issue then. Error running build with remote base when using GitHub Action. Running Kustomize locally using this format, everything is great. Running in GitHub Action, it does not recognize this as a GitHub URL. Let's see. Tried some. So my gut feeling, so how Kustomize is implemented, which theoretically shouldn't be important here, but how Kustomize is implemented is it will first, I think, try to load anything under bases as a URL. And if that fails, it then tries to load it as a local path. So considering that this works for them locally, but not in GitHub Actions, I have a suspicion that their GitHub action is just having trouble reaching across the network to fetch this URL.
I guess it might be worth mentioning. I can't see if they mentioned it there, but could this be a private repo that they're trying to access? Maybe it's because they are. Oh, actually, they're using Kubernetes, so that's probably. Well, no, it's my repo.
Yeah, I think this is just an example.
So could that be a private repo? Maybe they just need to mount a token to it.
I think they do say it's a private repo.
Oh, I haven't. I might have missed it.
Yeah, we use a private GitHub repo. Which, yeah, I think they will need to provide some sort of Git authentication in their GitHub Actions. That being said, we really need to fix this error message. I know Anna had some ideas around it, but I think it's bad that when we fail to load a URL, we throw an error saying we couldn't find it as a local file. That's very confusing. So we should probably address that at some point. Okay, let me try to write something up coherently. How Kustomize works is that. Okay, let me. Anna, is that correct? If it first tries to load as a URL, and if that fails, it tries to load as a file?
If I remember correctly, it will first check if it's a. Yeah. So I think what is it recognizing it as a file instead of a directory?
Let's see.
Because if I remember correctly, if it will first parse the URL, and if the URL looks like a valid repository, then it will git fetch. But if that fails, I don't think it will look for the directory locally. Let me check that really quick.
Okay. I'll also try to find it. I don't actually know where it is.
Okay, so I think what's happening is that it will try to load it as a file first, right? And that will fail. And then it will try to load it as a repo. It sees that the URL is a valid Git repo and tries to git fetch it. It fails, and so instead it returns the
file
local error. Yeah.
Okay, we need to fix that. Like we should either output both errors or we need to make sure we're outputting the right error. So let me write that down. So I think this is a legitimate bug in the sense that Kustomize is throwing the wrong error. Kustomize will first try to load things under bases. Try to make this sound better. Elements under bases as paths. If that fails, it will try to.
Also, Natasha, do we have a duplicate so that you don't have to write this again? Like my gut feeling is we could have run into this before.
You can take a look if you want. We have run into like similar issues where they're like, why is Kustomize loading this URL as a file? And then like having to explain that Kustomize is throwing the wrong error and actually there's something wrong with your URL. So if you can dig one of those up, that'll be helpful.
Okay. Let me look.
But yeah, we should really fix that. Load as URLs. It seems here that your GitHub action is failing to reach your private GitHub repo, and then Kustomize is outputting the wrong error. If it works locally, then it's possible that your GitHub action has some sort of authentication failure. I would suggest you try to see if a simple git clone works from your GitHub action and debug from there. I'll wait a few minutes to see if Anna can find an issue to link. See, I don't. On the customized side, we should make sure that we are throwing the correct error. Relevant bit of code is here for anyone who wants to take a stab at fixing this. Try to dig it up. Right. Does anyone have any other thoughts on this one?
If I find a duplicate, I can just write another comment.
Okay, thank you. I'm inclined to close this. I don't know that it makes sense to keep it open. Is anyone opposed to that? Sounds like a no, so please reopen if you have any further questions or something to discuss. Oh, that was the wrong thing to do because we want to fix the error message. I forgot about that. I'll retitle this Kustomize throws wrong error message for URL or remote base color. Okay. Any other thoughts before I move on? Sounds like a no. And have about 15 minutes left. So we can go through some of these kind feature bugs, maybe one or two of them. So I'll start with this one, add option to create namespace resource. All right, this is not requesting template. Sure. The namespace only sets does not create the resource. All right. So it sounds like what they're asking for is something like a namespace generator. My first thought is that that doesn't seem unreasonable. There are a couple of other open tickets relating to additional control over namespace behavior. Seems as though there is an ongoing need to enhance how Kustomize interacts with namespaces. I totally agree with that. I'm trying to think about if there is another way for them to achieve their goal with existing features. I'm not sure that I can think of one. Does anyone else have an opinion on this one? I want to say yes to this issue because I think it makes sense to me, but I don't want to do that hastily without thinking about it or looking more into what can the namespace transformer currently do. And it would also be great to have Katrina's opinion on this. So I'd like to put it under, like, Tri-Edge under consideration for now. Any other thoughts?
Since none of us are talking, I'll just say I think that's makes sense and is appropriate.
Okay. This issue on its own makes sense to me. It sounds looking for something like a namespace generator. And off the top of my head, I can't think of another way to achieve your goal with existing features. That said, I don't want to be hasty, and will take some time to look into the current namespace transformer a little more to see what's currently possible. But I'm not necessarily opposed to the feature you are suggesting here. And then I'll tag Katrina. It would be great to have your opinion on this as well. Okay. Probably have time for just one more. If anyone has one that looks particularly interesting, we can look at that. Otherwise, we'll just move on to the next one. Going once, going twice. Okay. Paste this in the chat. Warn when name reference is being ignored due to namespace via logging options. When using name reference updates, such as when using the config map generator, current behavior is that objects which specify a namespace will be excluded from any name reference update. If that's true, that sounds kind of sketchy. I wish they would give an example. Because in theory, like name references should also include a namespace. It should be like name and namespace. And then it should use the namespace to match. I'm inclined to ask for a specific example so that we can decide if this is a bug in Kustomize or if some sort of warning is really needed. Documentation to make this behavior clear. Yeah, it sounds like they're frustrated because they spent a lot of time on debugging something, and they're frustrated that it was just Kustomize doing something that they didn't expect, which is very reasonable. But I think for me, I need some more information on what exactly happened. Thank you for filing this issue. I'm sorry to hear that you had to spend so many hours debugging something that ended up being unexpected behavior from Kustomize. Do you mind providing some example set of manifests that can reproduce this issue? This sounds strange to me because in theory, Kustomize should be using namespaces in addition to name to match name references. And I think without more information, I'm not sure that I have that I can make a decision on the other things that they are asking for. Does anyone else have an opinion? Sounds like no. So we'll do need information. We can leave it at that. Okay, I don't think we have time for any more. So thank you all for coming to the Kustomize bug scrub. I'm going to stop recording now.